this video is going to be chatty. Apparently, when it comes to planners and journals, I have a ton to say, which I guess is why I have a YouTube channel. So before we get into it, grab yourself a cozy beverage, a snack, and something to keep you company while we hang out and have a talk about how Q1 2025 has gone in my planners and journals. So I guess I want to start off by saying that I recognize that for some, this is going to seem excessive, and for others, this is going to seem minimal, maybe. This system works for me because I do have certain books that I'm in every day, and then I have certain books that I'm in when I have time or as needed. And honestly, I kind of had trouble categorizing this. I sort of at first categorized it as planning, tracking, which was all functional, and then memory keeping. I also thought about like work, life, and then I guess life/memories. And that's not even including some of my occasional books that are not here. So that was a distinction that I really liked from watching Tiny Tiger Co.'s Techokaigi. I think it was last week. I'll link it in my description. But Helena categorized some of her books as occasional books where she just dips in and out of them when she needs to. And I have a lot of books like that as well, mostly in my traveler's notebooks. So as a quick example, I have this Traveler's Diner. This is sort of like a memory keeping, scrapbooking type insert that I just dip in and out of when I feel like it, and then when I finish an insert, I just pop in a new one and I continue on. So I actually finished this insert very recently. And it took me a year because of how infrequently I'm using this insert. If you're interested in seeing a flip through of this, let me know. I really enjoy having a space to put some of my memories from events I've been to or Happy Mail that I've received, because some of this stuff gets too bulky to put in my daily books. So I really like using this supplementary traveler's notebook to house that type of stuff in. So anyway, this is an example of an occasional book. I also have this, which is my pen and ink log, which is another occasional book. So we're not talking about the occasional books. These are, I guess, what I would consider like part of the regular rotation, but the frequency that I'm using these does differ depending on what the book is for. So let's just, I guess, get right into it. I'll start by going over the planning, because if I'm going to categorize, if we're just going to look at my planning system, I would say I'm really just in these two books. Okay, so I'm just going to move that stack aside. And we will first start off with these two books. So this is my EDC, my everyday carry. This is my everyday planner. It is currently housed in the A6 portfolio and this was a Wonder Pens and the Superior Labor collaboration. It's got this really cute cat on the back, and I am a big fan of the Superior Labor products. I think I've reached my limit to how many things I'm really able to add to my collection before it starts to become like a just because I like it situation. But I'm really happy that I've been able to find a use for all of the Superior Labor products that I have bought so far. So anyway, this is a portfolio in that it only zips on two sides. And then inside, I've got my A6 original, and that is in a Midori A6 cover. I've got my weekly supplement, and I also have my Pilot Decimo in an EF nib, which I really like because it's a thin pen. a narrow pen, so I can fit it in here pretty easily with these two other items, and it closes quite comfortably. So I'm just going to move this aside. Because I use this for work, I have a lot of really sensitive information in here, so because I don't feel like covering it all up, honestly, I just kind of covered it up for March. So I have other videos where I have done flip throughs, and I think my last video probably covered January and February of this year. So if you're truly curious to see how I use these books and get more examples, then I encourage you to check those videos out. This I use as my to-do list and also kind of like scrap paper for throughout my day. And this I use as my calendar because I do time block to an extent, and I also use this kind of as a future planning kind of calendar. I'm just going to grab a sip of my cozy beverage. I forgot to mention this earlier, but I am currently drinking an Ovaltine. I think that's what it's called. I don't have the packaging with me, but it's like a malt chocolate drink. So I fill it halfway up with hot water, and then I just put some steamed milk on top. Okay. So, this is something that I have been using for, I think, almost a year now. I think it was around July of last year, I switched from my Hobonichi Cousin as my main planner, and I downsized into this Hobonichi A6. And while I face temptation to go back to my Cousin on a weekly basis because there are so many amazing creators that make the best content on the Hobonichi Cousin, and it truly makes me miss using it. I always have to remind myself that the main reason why I downsized is because I wanted the portability of being able to take these books with me and have them open on my desk and have them not take up too much real estate. So I guess I'll start with March. One moment. Okay. So this is what my weekly supplement looks like. So essentially on the left-hand side, I just put down future events that I need to take note of. So I will add these in whenever something comes up. And then at the beginning of every week, I will use different color codes to mark down different meetings or different events that I need to take note of. And I used to include a key every week that showed what each color represented, but I've internalized that at this point, so I don't use that anymore, but I kind of know my own key, and I really find that it helps me kind of get a sense of like where I'm going to be spending the majority of my time in the week, because I do have multiple sources of income. And then for other types of events that are more on the personal side, I tend to write those out in a marker, and when they happen, I will outline them. So if they don't happen, then I will just take the marker and kind of like mark over it, because plans change. So sometimes things that I have planned don't end up happening. So writing it out in marker is kind of like my equivalent of penciling something in. So I can easily remove it by basically like coloring over it. So this is what my March looks like. I love this system. It's not the most exciting sometimes, but it really works because I find this book is just so small that I can keep it open on my desk, and I can carry this around with me and keep it up to date pretty easily. I've been trying, when I used to do this in my Hobonichi Cousin on the weekly pages, I used to put a lot more like personal notes that I would use to help me with my 5-year journal. And I kind of stopped doing that for a while. This was purely functional, but I have been finding that I'm missing that sort of personal log element. So I've been experimenting with trying to put more things in. For example, like I got a package from Galen from Fountain Pendulum recently, and I sort of marked that down so I could remember when I received that. So that's just something that I'm kind of trying. And I like it because otherwise this is pretty bare. When I have time, I put stickers and I decorate it a lot more, but I haven't had a lot of spare time lately, so I just wanted to give you an honest look at what this looks like. It is pretty much purely functional, and when I have time, if I'm wanting to, like later on, if I have time and if I'm in the mood, I'll probably go back and I'll just add some stickers like I did here, just to brighten up the pages if I want to flip through this later. So that's the weekly supplement. No changes, it's going really well, and as I've gotten busier, this has been crucial to keeping me on track with everything because I have had a lot of things going on, and just starting my week off, writing things down, it helps with my anxiety and overwhelm because I feel like I can kind of visualize how the week is going to be, and it just allows me to mentally prep for which days are going to take up more energy and which days I may want to take it more easy because I may have less things to do. Or it might tell me which days I need to block off things from one obligation versus another, just so that I can make sure that I still can function properly and do my job well. So my A6 is very much my everyday carry. It's kind of like my to-do list because I use a bullet journal inspired method for my everyday to-do lists. It's also a place where I play with my pens and inks, so I often do little currently inked lists in blank pages because I don't really like log that elsewhere. And also in the monthly, I haven't really been keeping up with it, but I usually use my monthly calendar as a place to log ink samples or new inks that I come across, or if I ink up a new pen, sometimes I use this to note that down. But I'll be honest, I've fallen behind on this. You can see March is completely empty. This is really just an when I have time kind of thing, and I really haven't had a lot of extra time, so it is blank, but there's no reason why I can't go back and fill this out later, so I'm not really concerned, but I do think it's really fun to look back and see like what inks I was using in that month, that kind of thing. As for my daily pages, like I said, I'm just going to go straight to March. So I'll show you a few examples. On the weekends, I don't tend to use these as to-do lists because this is mostly used for work, Monday to Friday. So I tend to use the blank pages as like scrap paper. So for example, I did a video last month with Teddy Blake where I received a bag from them to review. So I just kind of had some notes here jotted down. So when I was filming, I had this to glance at and reference while I was talking. I've also covered up some personal things, but usually when I cover stuff up, this is medical stuff. So say a doctor's office calls me and I need to take some notes. I've also started some new medication recently, and I've had to take a lot of notes around the medication, the schedule of taking the medication, that type of thing. So I usually use this space to jot that down, and if there's anything more formal or something that I really feel like I want to track for my health and wellness, I'll transfer that over to my health and wellness. So yeah, the layout hasn't changed since I moved into this book last year. Basically, I start my mornings off by writing down any meetings that I have already scheduled. And then I will write down my to-do list, and it'll be a circle outline for everything that I need to do. When I complete them, I'll color it in. If I don't complete them, I'll just add an arrow, and then I'll move it over to the next day until I get that thing done. I find starting my week off, writing out everything during my week helps me visualize the week. But because my memory is not great, writing down what I need to do for that day or what meetings I have for that day really helps me start off my day kind of on the right track. So this seems repetitive to some people, but for me, this works really well for me. Yeah, so you can see here, like, I use this side for random notes. Like here I had a Galen from Fountain Pendulum, and I did an ink swap, and we shared our lists of inks with each other, and this was kind of my wish list from her. And then I'll sometimes add notes around like pens and ink combinations, lots of pen thoughts. This is another example of using sort of weekend. This is Friday technically, but using kind of weekend days to help me make notes on videos that I'm working on. So this was a video I did with Benu, and I kind of wrote this out ahead of filming the video, and it was a really convenient page to reference when I was actually doing the filming. And here are just some pen tests. Yeah, just more like meetings, to-dos, and then these would just be like personal notes. And then I have like a sample currently inked list. This was a test I did in pencil when I was thinking about moving out of my meal planning book, which we'll talk about in a second. And I was just seeing how I could potentially make that work if I wanted to stop using this book and then start doing my meal planning in here. And just some more notes. So this purple ink sample extravaganza that I did in my last video. These were all ink samples in the purple color family from Fountain Pendulum from Galen. And I also started experimenting with using my little, one sec. I have these little, like, I don't know what they're called, like push stamps. And I was experimenting with logging what I was reading or watching down here. I liked it, but I kind of like forgot to do it sometimes. So while I think this is a nice idea, I don't know that I will remember to do this on a daily basis, but I do like it. I like the concept. So you can see it's not decorated in any way. There's lots of blank spaces, but I usually go back and use these in some way. So either I go back and I do like pen tests, or I'll write pen thoughts, I'll do currently inks. Like I always end up using the pages, but sometimes not in real time. And this was a to-do list from another video that I did last week on, what did I call it? A new series that I started called, Little Cocoa Moments. Little Cocoa Moments at my desk. And then we're in April now, so just a couple more things here. Yeah, so that's the original, and I try not to put too many stickers in here. At the end of the year, when I'm almost finished the book, I probably will be more liberal with adding stickers in blank pages that I didn't end up using. But for now, I prefer to keep it minimal because I don't want it to bulk up too much in this portfolio. So yeah, it's pretty much like a pen only book, and I really like that. So that's my main planner. Honestly, this is really all I use. I mean, I do use this for meal planning, but this is kind of like, it has multiple uses, meal planning being one of them. So this is really, honestly, this is my planning system. And while I have so many books, this is something that I'm using on a daily basis. I wouldn't necessarily say anything else really gets as much importance as this one. Okay. So next we have my meal planner. I recently did a video where I talked about wanting to give up on this and losing motivation for using this. First of all, thank you so much, everyone, for all of your thoughtful discussion, your comments, and your feedback. I just love having these conversations with you, and it was nice to know that for some of you, you could resonate and you were also struggling with your books. And then for others, I really appreciated you sharing what works for you and giving me tips and giving me things to think about. So I guess I just wanted to follow up and share an update. Basically, in that video, I talked about how meal planning used to be something that was a big struggle for me. It's something I don't enjoy doing, and it was impacting my life in a sense because it was the source of a lot of arguments with my partner. It was a source of stress. I would feel a lot of dread around the whole topic, and so I think the desire to fix the problem and then also finding, discovering Hobonichi and falling in love with Hobonichi as a brand and falling in love with the Hobonichi week size became this like project, I guess. And I was able to kind of create a meal planning system that really worked well for us. But in a way, it worked so well that I was kind of starting to get bored. So there was a moment where I thought about abandoning this book because I always go through these, I always flip-flop between wanting to simplify and just having like one book, and then wanting to have many books and compartmentalizing different areas and different topics, because I like the variety and I like being able to switch things up and also keep focused on areas where I know I can easily get distracted. So having a book that was solely dedicated to meal planning is really helpful for me because in a lot of ways I've kind of made it fun, but at the same time, because it's so routine, it's also become a little bit boring for me. So some of the things that that have happened since then was I continued to get really busy, which I think may have contributed to my desire to switch things up or make a change, because when I get really busy and overwhelmed and out of control, sometimes I find myself trying to find other things in my life that I can have some control over. And perhaps because of how busy I've been and how not in control of my schedule I'd been feeling, maybe there was a part of me that wanted to like control something, which was switching from planning separately in a book to potentially integrating my meal planning into this book. However, I decided to stick with it a little longer because I didn't want to make any impulsive decisions. And there was a particular period where I had like a critical moment. And by critical moment, I mean a moment that kind of represents like a turning point for me. And that critical moment was when I had a string of really late nights. I was very tired, and the last thing I wanted to do was cook. So I was very tempted to propose that we get takeout and just use that night as a night off, because it was my cooking night, but I was really tired. I ended up flipping through this book. I can actually remember the day it was. It was this day. And I had put turkey larb inspired bowls. It's like a recipe card from one of those meal subscription services. And I love this meal because number one, it's delicious. Number two, I can cook it within 20 minutes. I basically have the recipe memorized. And number three, I've modified it or adapted it to our needs. So basically I can just make the meal very quickly. So when I saw that this was what I had planned, and I saw that I already had all the groceries in the fridge, we had defrosted the meat because we knew that this was something we were going to be eating, I knew that it was almost going to take longer to order food and wait for it to arrive than it would to just roll up my sleeves and cook. And for the next 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, I was able to pop on a YouTube video because I'm often watching YouTube when I'm cooking. And I was able to just kind of like zone out and cook. And that was a turning point for me because it reminded me that this system works so well for us that even when I'm bored, it's really there for me. And yes, I could have changed things up, or I could in theory do all of this planning in this book. But this was in the kitchen. I was able to open it up. I was able to flip through it or flip to this page, double check what I was going to make. And I don't know, ever since then, I've been kind of motivated to stay in this book and to continue using it for the time being. Maybe at the end of Q2, I'll feel differently. But for now, I've been really enjoying it. So I'll give you a really quick flip through. I've flipped through this book so many times in other videos. I don't want to bore people who have been watching my videos. Basically, in my monthly calendar, I note down when we go grocery shopping and how much we spend. We try to go grocery shopping, do our main grocery shopping twice, like every 2 weeks. Occasionally, there are other days, but usually we're on like a bi-weekly schedule. Throughout the week, I plan in 2-week sprints. So week one, on the left-hand side, I will have one column dedicated to any events that I know are coming up. Anything that would impact whether I would have time to cook that night, because I typically cook during the week, and then Mike usually cooks at the end of the week and on the weekends. On the right-hand side of week one of my meal planning sprint, I always start with what we have in our freezer mainly to start working with. I'll note down meal ideas, and this is something that Mike and I will add throughout the week for the next sprint. Just in case I'm craving something, this is kind of a place to write it down so I don't forget. Down here, this is new to 2025. I've been so about it, but I will use the bottom half of the notes page to write down chores. And this is a very reactive list. It's meant to be proactive, where I write down things that I know I want to do. But in practice, it's more of a reactive list. And in week 2 of my meal planning sprint, I have the same setup on the left-hand side. So events in one column, meal plan in the 2 columns. And then on the notes pages, the top half I use as a shopping list. And I'll also add to this throughout the week. For example, I know we're running low on dishwashing detergent, so I've already put that on. So when we go grocery shopping this coming weekend, it's already on the list. And then in the bottom half, I do chores. So part of the reason why I like having it as a separate book is so that my partner can also use this book. In reality, he's not really in this book that often. So that's just something that it's more like a bonus if he's in here, but I'm not going to force him to do something that doesn't work. the important thing is that I'm mainly in this book, and he knows to reference this book if he wants to know what's going on or where we're at with meal planning. And as much as I have this desire to move meal planning into my A6, I also think it's good to have it separate because I don't necessarily want him to be flipping through my work planner. So something that I did since I made that video about motivation was I did add in, I attempted to do some retroactive decorating to see if maybe that would make me more excited to flip through these pages. So I've printed off some meals that we've made in the past. So this week we made corn chowder, which was a recipe that one of my viewers shared with me, and it's also in the Little Coco community recipe book in case you want to check it out. But I made it and it was such a delicious soup. So I took a photo of it. I take a lot of photos of my food, and I just put it in here. So, I've just been adding like stickers from fruits and veg. I've been using some of my food themed washi tape and just adding stickers in blank spots to see if that might, make me more excited. So yeah, that's kind of the update with the meal planner. So all I have to say is, honestly, it's a little boring. Maybe I'm underutilizing the space a little bit. I'm sure I could fit this in something else. But the system is here. It works. When it comes to keeping us on track and preventing us from making up our meal plan as we go, I don't want to go back to that lifestyle, or I don't want to go back to that. So for now, this is staying, and I'm really happy about that. Something else I added in here was we planted some seedlings for our hopeful garden, and I just kind of marked down what we planted. So we are like the most beginner gardeners out there, so I have no advice to give. Only sharing what I'm doing. And if you have any advice or tips, please share. Almost all of the seeds we planted are now sprouting, and we're just hoping we keep them alive long enough to transplant them outside, and hopefully they will grow. So yeah, and then coming up this coming week, I've sort of outlined my 2-week sprint, and as I mentioned, I've just started adding in things that I know we need. So by the time I sit down to plan the next 2 weeks, which I will probably do at the end of this week, I'll sort of have a base. So that's meal planning. And then in the back, I've just been using this space as a mix of like kind of memory keeping, logging, and tracking stuff. So I've been tracking TV shows and movies that we watch because we tend to watch these things together. I've been kind of doing some like movie and TV show reviews. And then I also use the notes pages. This is a Hobonichi Weeks Mega. I also use the notes pages for writing down what we buy at the grocery store, and also recipes. So yeah, I mean, again, it's not the most exciting book, but it works really well, and I love that I can just take this with me to the grocery store when we are shopping. So honestly, yeah, this is going really well. I was losing some steam for it, but we're back on track. Okay. Next, every time I do these, I think I'm going to be able to get through it quickly, and then I ramble, and somehow it doesn't happen. Okay, but this is my health and wellness tracker. This is also going very well, so I guess I can hopefully keep this kind of short. In the monthlies, I didn't really block things out, but basically I note down any social events or special events that are noteworthy in the monthly pages. And then I use the weekly pages to track the weather, the sunrise and sunset. Yeah, that was an idea from Katie's craft studio, so thank you. I note down the meals that I eat, so this is more of a logging or tracking situation, which is different from meal planning. I have a section here on the right hand side. There's a column here for notes for each day. And then I have a section for habits that I'm tracking. I have a section for other more like health related things that I'm tracking. Skin, I'm tracking things, symptoms with my skin, because this is my biggest issue that I've been dealing with. And then I just have some additional notes. And every month I switch to a different purple ink, which has been really fun. So in January, I used Teranishi Innocent Mauve. And then in February, I used Sailor Kingdom Note Grape Dyed Cloak. That was an ink sample from Leanne, from Leanne Likes. This was a beautiful ink, but it did totally bleed through on this Hobonichi paper. So I was actually quite glad to switch to something else in March. In March, I used Atono and Lim's Fujino Mahime ink. And then this month, in April, I am using Birmingham Penco Pop Art Purple, which was an ink sample that I received from Galen from Fountain Pendulum. So this is working out really well. I don't have any issues filling it out. Occasionally I have a little bit to catch up on. Like you can see, I forgot to add in my weather, so I'll have to go in and add the high and the average for each day. And then I also draw in here something that symbolizes the weather for that day, whether it was like sunny or cloudy. And I'll have to go in and just color that in, but that won't take me very long at all. In the back, I have a monthly recap page where I note down highlights and people I interacted with. Highlights and lowlights, really. And then I have my year at a glance dashboards. And here I'm tracking 3 things for now. I'm tracking anxiety. And I kind of have this here as I use the ratings for my week. And I have like a 3 code system where if it's a big color dot, that means like something's up, maybe start paying attention, anxiety is really high. When it's a circle with no, like it's a circle outline, that means like it's not crazy high, but just monitor it. So it's like moderate anxiety. And then if it's a little dot, that means it's all good. Unfortunately, I haven't experienced that yet this year, but hopefully we will get there. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do in the bottom here. I don't know. I just honestly haven't had time to figure it out. But the idea that I had was I wanted to be able to compare anxiety against other things that I'm tracking just to look for patterns. But I don't know. I just have to sit down and try something, and I haven't made time to do that. On the right-hand side of this year at a glance, I have a table here where I can note down any notable event that I want to, keep note of, because it could impact whatever you're seeing here. And I didn't do it here, but I intended for each of these days to outline it in a box to sort of connect the two. So I think I do that in the other, so in sleep, you can see here, I had a note for January 17th, and I put a little box here. So you can just quickly see like something happened here, and this is the detail. So I just realized that I forgot to update these things. The reason why is because I'm actually keeping most up to date with the skin issues. So here, it's very similar. I have sort of a monitor or highest priority, like when I'm feeling really inflamed. I have kind of a moderate, monitor, but it's not as high priority, and then something where it's like low priority, things are going well. So you can see here, I've put the most effort in terms of tracking like events because I'm really trying to get my skin issues under control in 2025. I've been working with a slew of doctors, an allergist, a dermatologist, my GP, and also a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. So I've just been seeing like anyone that I'm able to get access to. This is just a work in progress. This is a life work in progress. And having events, tracking medications I'm taking, all of that stuff has been very important to advocate for myself when I'm speaking with any one doctor, because technically they have files, but I find when I go to a session, it's easier if I just tell them what's going on to further our conversation when I'm actually sitting in front of them. And if there's anything they really want to double check or they want to document, of course that gets done and they always have access to it. But I have just learned that it's very important to hold your own information, your own health information, and be able to speak to it and advocate for yourself. So I have seen a really big shift in what I've been able to do, what medications I've been able to get access to, simply by just being on top of my own history and being able to communicate what I've tried, what's working and what's not working objectively to the different medical professionals that I've been working with. So I'm a really big advocate for using this information, and it has come in so handy that it is worth me having a separate book for. Again, I know multiple books is not for everyone, but if there's one book that I think has really made a difference in my overall health and wellness, it is this book. So I don't know if I'll always be in a Hobonichi weeks. Maybe in future years I'll get bored and I'll want to try a different format or a different type of book, but the information here and what I'm collecting, what I'm tracking, is going to be very important. And I'm pretty sure I'm always going to have something like this in my life. Just in the back, I have a couple of things. I've got a friend log, which I'm not going to show. I also have been tracking the books that I've read so far this year. And different information on things that I've tried, medication-wise, and what ingredients and different creams, that kind of thing. That's all in the back. And I've got my allergy test results and a pen test. So that is my Hobonichi Health and Wellness Weeks. It's going really well. I'm not really making any changes to it, and I've been keeping up with it because it's probably one of my most important books. Okay, I think these next things are going to be a little faster, so I'll start with my Hobonichi Cousin. I mainly use this as a work notebook. I can't show you most of the pages because there is a lot of really confidential information, but I do have a list of things that I use this for. And I will also say that I mainly use the daily pages. I have been experimenting with using the weekly pages. I'll explain. But anyway, so what I'm mainly using this book for is professional development. So if I take courses or if I do any kind of study, I'll use this to take notes because I like the structure of having the general day that I did that study on. And I tend to use the yearly index to index that page. So I really like the structure of being able to have the daily page and then be able to kind of have like a built-in chronological order to it. I also do some business development marketing. So one of my goals for this year is to create a website for myself, and that didn't happen in Q1, so we are aiming for Q2, but that's an example. Session plans, so if I'm planning out how I want to run a session or run a meeting, sometimes I'll use these note pages for that. Supervision notes, so I do meet with a supervisor for some of the work that I do, and I often use this book to take notes during our supervision, just because I find like the notes I take during these sessions tend to be longer, so they wouldn't really fit in this small book. And then research notes, general research notes. So if I'm doing like YouTube videos or I'm reading different articles of things I'm interested in, like I'll use this book to take notes. So for the monthly, what I mainly do with this is sometimes I use this for planning out YouTube videos. And sometimes I track some of my YouTube stats. Sometimes when I have a bunch of video ideas, I put them on little sticky notes and I'll kind of mark them out ahead of time. So that's what I use this calendar for. For my weekly, I mentioned that I have multiple work streams. So what I've been experimenting with varying levels of success is I will divide up this page into 4 like quadrants, and I will use a top quadrant for like I'll assign each quadrant to a work stream. And so in an upcoming week, if I kind of have some like kind of big things that I want to get done or general things I want to get done for each of those work streams, this is what I'll use that space for. So as an example, if I'm running some research sessions, I will kind of have in like one section all the big things that I want to get done for that week that will allow me to prepare for those sessions. Maybe in the top I'll have things that I want to accomplish in, say, that website stuff that I want to do, like maybe it's writing out content. I'm also studying for an exam coming up, so like I'll also have a section for what I want to get done for that exam, and then I'll have another section for general like life stuff. So if I have, I don't know, as an example, like maybe I want to send packages to friends, or just stuff like that I want to remember. This is just a space that I can use. I can also use this technically, but I consider this very much like a workbook, whereas this is more like a planner book, if that makes sense. So that's what I've been using my weekly for. And then I marked down here a couple pages that I think I'm okay to share with you. So these are more like YouTube related things because I didn't want to share work notes. But here's an example of when, for my Benu video, there were so many things that I wanted to make sure I talked about, but I was having trouble like organizing it in my head. So I kind of did like a mind map of all the different things that I wanted to cover. And then I was able to create an outline for that video by doing this exercise. So that's one example. Here's an example of some research I did for the motivation video that I did a little while back. So I kind of did like a self-reflection of what exactly was going on, what I was really thinking, how I wanted to kind of like, I don't know, where this was coming from. And then I did a little bit of research, very, very light research on looking for some articles, some journal articles that might help me understand what was going on, or help me understand what was going on here. So I made notes on the article that I referenced. And then over here, I kind of loosely outlined a video outline. So I don't remember if I stuck with this exactly, but basically like I did an outline. I don't always do an outline for all my videos. Like this one is so chaotic, it's kind of all over the place, but sometimes I do an outline, and that's an example of when I would use this workbook. And then this is just an example of some of the stuff that I've been studying for my upcoming exam that is happening later this month. And so you can see, like, sometimes I keep up to date. Right now I'm pretty behind. We're already in April and most of March is empty. But that's mainly because a work project was... I had so many notes to take for a work project that I actually had to use a supplementary notebook to take my notes because it was just using up too much of my cousin. But I use these pages up, and I love this grid. I love this paper. Even though this is the year of the problematic Hobonichi paper, I just love, like, there's something about having something already on the page that I find less intimidating than a completely blank page. I don't know the psychology behind it, but for some reason, I just really like working in my Hobonichi Cousin. I admit I could probably do a lot of this stuff in a blank notebook, but I love the Hobonichi Cousin. I love being able to say I have a meeting on this day. I love being able to flip ahead to the day, make some notes on things that I want to cover, or take notes directly on the day of the meeting. And then I'll go back to the blank pages and I'll use those for things like, study notes or whatever. So the pages all get used up, and I really love this book. It's very much a desk book. It never really leaves the house, but I love it. That's my cousin. Why don't we do this one next? This is going to be quick too. So this is my 5-year Hobonichi. I mainly use this to track highlights or memories from every day. Okay. It would just be too hard for me to block off everything in this book because it is very personal. I don't censor anything, but basically, I update this on a weekly basis. I would love to make this a daily routine, but it just hasn't happened that I am able to update this on a daily basis. So basically what I do is at the end of the week, as part of like an end of week reflection, I will usually on Sundays open this up and I will catch up on the last 7 days of what happened. And if you're unfamiliar with the 5-year, this is the A5 size, but it has it has little sections like this on every page for the last 5 years. So this is the 3rd year that I have been in this book, and I have kept it very up to date despite not updating it on a daily basis. And usually on this side, I will just write something very simple like what I did. It could be the smallest moment. It could be a really big moment, like finishing a really big project, or, finishing a program or finishing studies, that kind of thing. Or it could also be something really joyful, like some ink samples that I got from Tiffany. I've mentioned several times in my videos that Tiffany from Talksmot and I met a little while ago, and we did an ink trade. Side note, she has the most amazing ink collection. When she shared her list, I'm not kidding, I wanted like everything on the list. Even what you see here, I felt so greedy asking for so many samples, but she truly has like an astounding ink collection, and Sailor is one of my all-time favorite ink brands, and she has great taste. So when I do ink trades, usually I will actually note them down in my 5-year on the right-hand side, which is a blank note page. Sometimes if I have photos, I'll put them in here. Sometimes I'll put stickers, washi. But I do keep this pretty lean because I just think it would be too overwhelming for me to have like a really thick, fluffy book that I'd want to use for the next 5 years. So I suspect that in my 5th year, I'm probably going to, get a lot more liberal about what I'm adding in here. But for now, it's mainly a pen book with occasional like splashes of ink. So yeah, that's my 5-year journal. It's very personal. I don't mind that. Because it's my 3rd year, I absolutely love catching up in my, writing whatever happened that day, but then also going back and seeing what I was up to in the previous 2 years. So this is one of those like long-term investment books, and sometimes it might seem a little boring, especially in your first year. It can be really hard to stay on track, but it's one of those things like every year it gets better and better, and I'm so happy that I stuck with it because it's just like, yeah, I just love being able to see like how my life has changed and what was important to me 2 years ago versus what's important to me today, or I don't know, it's just really cool. So yeah, this is coming. This is going strong. I don't talk about it much because I really can't share my pages, but occasionally I can share like a really pretty colorful page like this. So that's my 5-year. And last but not least, my security blanket, my wonderful traveler's notebook. This is a custom cover that I got in Kirishiki in Japan when my partner and I went there last year in October. I pretty much have this with me everywhere. Like in the morning when I'm having breakfast, I usually grab my health and wellness, and I usually grab this traveler's notebook, and I'll update this at the beginning of the day, and then if I have time, which isn't always, if I have time, I will open this up and I will do some journaling. So this is very much like memory keeping, but I love this thing so much. It brings back so many happy memories, and I love that I'm using this as a memory keeper as well. So inside, I have some stickers in I think this is called a secretarial pouch. I've got a clear folder, and then I have a vertical weekly insert. So this is January to July, and I use this as a memory keeper. I would love to be like a daily memory keeper kind of person, but I just don't have the schedule that allows me to do that right now. So I thought having a weekly memory keeper would be a bit more sustainable for me. And to be completely honest with you, even this has been really challenging for me to keep up with. So I'm actually pretty up to date at the moment. I think, yeah, somehow I actually managed to keep up to date. So we are Sunday the 6th, and I just have to catch up on this week. And I also like to wait till the end of the week before I fill this out, because I like to pick the biggest events, and typically those happen on the weekends anyway. So I do like to wait until the end of the week, and then it's a reflective activity for me where I can kind of think about like, what do I want to remember from this week and take with me in the future. So I love this so much. It is hard to keep up with, but I think it's going to be worth it. And I love how this is shaping out. The next insert is my personal journal. I just recently switched over to this beautiful Tokyo Station insert from the Tokyo Station Traveler's Factory. I've been using this pencil board because it helps. It's a blank insert, so I've been using this pencil board to use for writing in a straight line. And I thought this would be really annoying, but it's actually not been too bad. So it helps that I really love the Midori cream paper, and just using the clip really helps keep everything in place. And I don't put a lot of stickers on here because I find that if you add a sticker, like say I add a sticker here, then if I want to write on the back side, then I can't see the lines. So This is very much like a pen only insert, but sometimes I'll go back and I'll retroactively add little stickers in blank spots if I find them. So I'm loving this insert. I talked in my last video how I love being able to switch through these inserts more quickly, because a lot of these Hobonichi books are for the entire year, so you're not really going to be switching out of them until next year. But this gives me some variety, and it allows me to have something to kind of cycle throughout the year. So I really appreciate that. And of course, I love that I'm using up some of my beautiful inserts, because I did come home with a lot of these from my trip. So I'm happy that I'm going to be able to use them and just have this constant memory of this trip of a lifetime that we took last year. And then my last insert is my sticker release paper, and I constantly update this. I'm shifting things around. I'm adding new stickers. I'm, making an effort to use these stickers in my journal, in my memory keeper, and also my other books. So I love this. And then finally, I just have this plastic zippered pouch where I just have little bits and pieces of things that I haven't found a place for yet. And then in the back here, I normally have like bigger stickers that I don't feel like putting in my sticker release paper, but right now it is empty. Okay, we did it. That is my... Let me just organize my books again. Overall, as I flip through all of these things, I'm feeling pretty good about how consistent I have been in everything. Sure, there are blank pages and there are, lots of blank spaces throughout, but for the most part, everything that I had kind of set up in September or planned in September or October of last year has carried through. I think it was just because, I decided to just stick with whatever was working in 2024 and not make too many changes. That's not to say that I haven't been bored. And also, that's not to say if something isn't working in your system, there's no shame in dropping a book, taking on a new book, making a change. These books are meant to enhance our lives, and a lot of these books bring me a lot of joy. And even if some books don't bring joy, if they are still functional and they are helpful, then it's worth it for me to stick with it. So I would say moving into Q2, I don't have any plans to change my system. I think I'm just gonna, carry on with everything. If I get to the end of the year and I have a full book of health and wellness, if I have a full book of memories, and meal planning is still on track, and we haven't fallen into the trap of take out more days out of the week than not, I think I'll be really happy. So sometimes I do think it would be nice if I could experiment with, say, taking everything that is in these books and seeing if I could make it all fit in, the cousin, because I think there is a world where I could use my daily pages for what I use this for. I could use the weekly section for how I'm using this. I could potentially be tracking my health and wellness in the daily pages or maybe the monthly, and then I could do my meal planning in my weeklies, or I could do it in my monthlies. I don't know. So I think there is a chance that maybe someday, maybe next year, I don't know, there will be a time where I'll be tempted to just downsize, tempted to go from all of these books to just one. But I'm pretty happy with compartmentalizing things. I do really love my Hobonichi weeks. I honestly can't see myself not using one of these in the coming years, even with the bad paper. I could see myself maybe dropping the meal planner, so I will really think about that as the year progresses. But for now, I think there's a lot more good with the system than there is bad. And yeah, I really enjoy how compact this is. So I can't really see myself switching out of this anytime soon. But never say never. So anyway, that's everything that I had for you today. Let me know, how are things going with your system? Are you feeling the itch to move into something new? Are you staying consistent? Let me know. I'd love to have a conversation with you. So if you're still here and you made it this far to the end of the video, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much. I hope you are doing well. I wish you a good start to Q2, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.